If I could pick any game to go back and re-experience blindly for the first time all over again, it would be Breath of the Wild. Exploring Hyrule for the first time was truly a once-in-a-lifetime event. It felt so easy to lose hours getting lost in this world full of mystery and wonder, and ooh, what's over there? I want to go check that out. I say once in a lifetime because I really did believe that. While I still enjoy going back and playing Breath of the Wild, it never has that same feeling I felt back in 2017. I know where all the shrines are, I know how to solve all the puzzles and beat all the bosses. The magic isn't exactly gone, it's just kind of a blurry memory now. But now that I'm actually playing Tears of the Kingdom this week, that feeling of going back and seeing one of my favorite games with fresh eyes was actually made possible. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little worried that revisiting the same map again would feel a little anticlimactic. But the truth is, as familiar as this world feels, Tears of the Kingdom is a completely fresh experience that allows me to play one of my favorite games for the first time all over again. Now, because the game has only been out for a couple of days, and I've barely even scratched the surface of what it has to offer, this is going to be more of a first impressions type video instead of a full-blown review. I will make one in the future when I actually finish the game, but I do want to take my time with it first. Also, I'm not planning on spoiling anything really. I want to talk about the map and the new mechanics that we've seen in the trailers, so don't worry if you don't have your hands on the game yet. I'm going to try my best not to ruin it for you. That being said though, I always think it's best to go into these games completely blind, so I'm not going to hate you if you leave. So where do we even start with this game? I think my biggest concern going in was the reused map. That's probably a good jumping off point. Get it?
Oh my god!
So after going through the tutorial section, which was pretty reminiscent of the Great Plateau from Breath of the Wild, the world officially opens up to you. I kind of surprised myself because the thing that had me the most worried about Tears is actually the thing that I've spent most of my time doing so far. The first thing I did after getting the paraglider was literally go straight back to the Great Plateau to see how it's changed. This has become a pretty common theme so far. I've just found myself really curious about how the world has evolved since Breath of the Wild, which is not something I even considered leading up to the game's release. Seeing important landmarks like the Shrine of Resurrection or the Temple of Time again literally gave me that feeling I had all the way back in 2017. But the weird part is, I've seen it all before, so why does it feel so new and exciting? I think the main reason is that Hyrule is put into a brand new context. It's not just Sky Islands or the caves, it's the new ways that you learn to explore the world. It really starts to set in with how different travel is in this game. You can't use Rivali's Gale to launch yourself into the air, you can't use Cryonis to cross bodies of water. You gotta make new strategies to get from point A to point B using the new abilities. Let's talk about those actually. Starting with the fuse mechanic, which has kind of single-handedly solved one of the biggest problems that Breath of the Wild had. I didn't really mind the weapon durability mechanics, but I can recognize their shortcomings. Once you find a really cool and powerful weapon, you kind of end up hoarding them because you don't want them to break. Say you have 10 weapon slots and 7 of those weapons are super powerful and cool looking. You start getting into a pattern of only using the 3 weak weapons because you know they're just going to break anyways. Tears of the Kingdom challenged this problem by making all of the weapons straight garbage, so that instead of hoarding all the weapons, you're constantly cycling through them without really thinking about it. The way you make these weapons powerful is by combining them with other materials you find around the world, whether that's the horns of a bokoblin or just a rock you find on the ground. It's actually killing 2 birds with 1 stone because back in Breath of the Wild, 90% of the materials you collect didn't really have a purpose. Now combining anything to an arrow will make it stronger, so it's always worth using those materials while you have them. Next we have the Ultra Hand ability, which is just a genius concept. You can pick up any object in the world and stick it to another, which basically turns Zelda into Minecraft. Well, the main purpose for this mechanic is to build vehicles in order to travel around the world, but there's really so much potential here if you take the time to experiment. For example, I was climbing a tower when it started raining, and I was pretty much making no progress. So I decided to build a makeshift hut out of nearby materials and created a fire to rest until morning. Finding creative ways to problem solve has always been the heart and soul of Breath of the Wild. But the abilities in Tears of the Kingdom took that idea to the next level. Here's another example. There was one point where I was soft-locked in the middle of a freezing lake, and there was no way to get back to land. While I could have just teleported to a nearby shrine, I wanted to see if I could solve this problem with the new mechanics. So I spawned one of those flying platforms and threw on some rockets, and just like that, I made my escape. Having a new set of tools makes you see a task as simple as getting around in a new perspective. Regardless of how incredible this map is, I think a lot of the heavy lifting comes from the new mechanics and how well utilized they are. There's also the Ascend mechanic, which allows you to travel through the ceiling above you, and the Recall mechanic that lets you rewind the momentum of an object. I'm still very early in the game, so I haven't had too many situations where I needed these mechanics, especially Ascend, which I almost always forget that it's a tool at my disposal, but I'll probably talk about those more after I complete the game. Do you remember how Nintendo kept insisting that Breath of the Wild is not an open world game, but instead an open air game? Well, Tears of the Kingdom really starts to see that idea put into practice with its many layered map. The following might be considered very minor spoilers for the early hours of the game, so just be warned. There are 3 main layers in the map this time around. There's the main overworld of Hyrule, which is somewhat how we remember it. Then we've got the Sky Islands, which are scattered all over the world and are massive in their own right. But my biggest surprise and probably highlight of the game so far has been the depths below Hyrule. We all wanted to see caves in this game, but there's no way we could have predicted this. An entirely new, gigantic map underneath the ground, completely cloaked in darkness. You know in Minecraft, when you're at the bottom of a cave, close to bedrock, with just an inventory full of diamonds, just trying to find your way back home? This new caves part of the game gave me that exact feeling. There are entire fortresses down here with new enemy types and so many surprises. I don't want to say any more, but I was honestly shocked by this area, and it's been so cool to see how large this world has become. And guys, that's barely scratching the surface of what this game really is. There's so much here to appreciate, and so much has improved from the side quests to the storytelling to the way you explore the world around you. You know, I might be in the honeymoon phase, especially as a huge Zelda fan, but I'm honestly thinking, could this be the best game ever made? I don't know. I'm going to finish it, and I guess we'll see. My full review of Tears of the Kingdom is going to be a lot more detailed, but I'm really loving this game and wanted to get some of my thoughts out there. I really hope you guys are enjoying it too. Now, I'm going to go play the game again. It took a lot for me to take a break to make this video, but subscribe if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, see you next time.